General Saha is now joining us live from New Delhi. Welcome to the program, sir. The latest information that we have in our news desk is India has accused Pakistan of carrying out misinformation and disinformation campaigns both to the public and also on social media. Despite that the country is relentlessly attacking India, what would you advise the public to do in situations like this where two nations are confronting each other?
See, first of all, I think it is very important to wait for the official briefing, as you're noticing that India has been carrying out very regular briefings for the media on a daily basis ever since the beginning of this situation, as it were, Operation Sindoor. So I think they must rely on the official briefing and not get carried away by fake media, number one. And even from the official briefing, which is coming from the Pakistani side, unfortunately, it's lies after lies after lies, and this is nothing new, because even as the Foreign Secretary highlighted yesterday, that this is a state which has been built on lies right from 1947-48, when they sent in the Qawwalis, the Lashkars, and nothing else but their own special forces people, dressed as Lashkars, and sent in only to be discovered later as that they were regulars. So let's, without going into so much of details over here on your show, the fact of the matter is propaganda, disinformation, misinformation, this is very well ingrained in whatever they are doing. We are in a very strange situation here, that you have a delusional army chief whose calculations have gone completely awry, supported by a, if I may use that term, deranged defense minister, who in the parliament is saying that our madrasas, which are schools, the students are going to be the second line of defense. And now we are seeing the Secretary of State of the US talking directly to the army chief, bypassing the foreign minister, the defense minister, and the prime minister. So clearly a defunct polity. So in those circumstances, what can you expect, from them? So they are completely reckless in the manner in which they are targeting. First, you target unarmed, innocent civilians through a terrorist attack in Pahalgam. And now you see the way they are targeting civilians across the line of control with artillery, heavy artillery. And now you see the drone attacks which are coming through across the entire international border, engaging civilians and trying to, in a sense, put some pressure on the government of India by sort of engaging civilians. Unfortunately, neither is it having any impact on the targets, because they are not successful in engaging the targets, and neither is it having any impact on the civilians. Just a little while back, you were showing the large number of volunteers who are coming up as civic volunteers in the Tri-City of Chandigarh. And in fact, even in the other method of targeting that they are doing, trying to target the Golden Temple, which is a much revered shrine of all religions, irrespective of religion. People go with a lot of reverence to the Golden Temple. They have tried to target the Gurudwara in Poonch, in Rajouri. They have tried to target a school. So the point which I'm trying to make is that all these attempts to create a communal divide, these attempts to put pressure on the civilians, to indirectly put pressure on the government, this recklessness in their targeting, it's all failing. It is not giving them any result whatsoever. So they are desperate now. And on the contrary, if you see, it's a very, very systematic targeting which India is doing after due cautioning. In the very first go, when India had targeted the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, they had made it very clear that our response is measured, it is focused, it is non-escalatory. We are not targeting the military infrastructure. It was a message to Pakistan that should you choose to escalate, we will escalate and we will target your military infrastructure. And now that they have done it, we are targeting it in a very systematic manner, degrading their defense potential, degrading their war waging potential. So therefore, Pakistan is going on escalating recklessly. And now we hear that they have moved troops into forward positions. This is what comes out of the latest position. So it is an escalatory movement which is going up. And now we are hearing that the Secretary of State has spoken to the Foreign Minister in India asking for methods to de-escalate. Well, that's a good initiative from the US. But I must add over here, only day before yesterday, or was it yesterday, that the US has helped Pakistan by bailing them out with the IMF package. This is a completely, reckless move that the US has done. If they wanted, with virtually veto powers in the IMF, they could have stopped that bailout package and put enough pressure on Pakistan to stop this nonsense that they have indulged in.
General Saha,
yes, please.
Let me interject you for a minute there. Let's talk about other issues at this juncture. How long can this confrontation or conflict stretch if there is no resolve or either side refuses to compromise? Very quickly.
Well, so there are two ways of looking at it. That A, Pakistan must realize what it is entering. So far, India has only shown a very limited, part of its military might. It has engaged a very limited range of targets in Pakistan, which has degraded up to a very small extent their air defense potential. India has hardly exercised its military might. If it chooses to enhance that, it is going to hurt them much more. And we have not at all talked about getting at the economic targets. If India chooses to go and strike Pakistan's economic target, I'm afraid that country, despite this IMF bailout, I must remind them that they are going to be in dire straits. Okay? And this time the military action is not alone. They have not factored the impact of the Indus Water Treaty suspension that is going to play out in its own, span as the time elapses, as the time goes on. So the point is, Pakistan is stuck in a time warp. Their calculations were based on the fact that, okay, there will be international pressure on India to de-escalate, and they will get away with what they have been doing in the past. So the short answer to your question is, the international community has to exercise pressure on Pakistan to de-escalate if this whole business has to stop. Okay, the compromise is on the international community to ensure that some good sense is drummed into this, the Pakistani military leadership, because in any case, they don't listen to their political leaders. Because if they were listening to their political leaders, you have seen the scenes in the Parliament of Pakistan where all the opposition leaders are literally crying in the Parliament, saying that do not go down this path. They don't seem to listen. So as far as India is concerned, it is repeatedly telling them, do not escalate, do not escalate. It is cautioning them, and they have to take the words of caution rather than going on in this radicalized and in this escalatory nature in the manner in which they are going.
General Saha, finally, the nuclear rhetoric you mentioned there, Pakistan is using it as a threat. Some would call it bluff, but in a sense, what would happen if Pakistan does indeed fire nuclear missiles towards India?
I'm glad you bring up this question. All this nuclear saber-rattling was there before we struck at the terrorist infrastructure. Have you heard even once this nuclear saber rattling after we have struck? The answer is no. This damn bluff has been called during Kargil. It has been called out again during the surgical strikes in 2016, again post the Pulwama in 2019. So I think it is better that we don't go there, because this is a bluff which Pakistan has been calling and fooling the world again and again. Okay, so now it is, I think,
then we should leave it
for
there.
countries like the US and the countries like China to drill this sense into Pakistan. They cannot get away with this nonsense of nuclear, strikes on the one side and maintaining terrorists as strategic assets. You can't have terrorists as strategic assets and nuclear threats as strategic assets at the same time. So some sense has to be put into this country, if they want to exist in the community of nations as a sensible nation.
All right, we'll have to leave it there then. I've been talking to retired Lieutenant General Subrata Saha, who was a former Deputy Chief of Army Staff and currently member of the National Security Advisory Board. General Saha, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.